consciously. So, and again, they kept on saying, until we get to the stage of really practicing what we're preaching, we do a lot of talking, but we're still not doing the practicing. We're here to be taught on this earthly realm. We're here to, we're training. We're here to, it's a school, you know. So if we keep on thinking that we know it all, or we know this or we know that, we're blocking ourselves from even our mindset to grow how we used to grow. And they took it back to our ancestors that done the in Kemet or Egypt, when they done the pyramids and stuff. They said, then you be able to connect with your spirit guides at the moment to connect to see if we're talking on the same page. But back then, which is just another dimension, it's literally just there, they were able to do the things that they done because they chose to use the elements. They chose to use elements. They chose to use the universe to get to where they needed to get to do what they needed to do, to use to open up their mindset to be able to, if you want to say, deliver in this lifetime, to be able to put things.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. And remember, if you like our conversations, remember to subscribe if you're listening on YouTube or any of the audio platforms, and sign up to our newsletter for updates on online classes, personal sessions, and shows coming up. I have another wonderful lady to introduce you to today, Zoe Pennant, who I've spoken about on the show when we spoke a couple of weeks ago with Annette. Welcome to the show, Zoe. So great to meet you.
Welcome.
Now, Zoe is the other half of the story that Annette and I were talking about, but I have a feeling we're going to have quite a different perspective, because as we spoke about, life is about how we think about it, and we all live in our own little universe, don't we? We have our own perspectives. Yes. So I'm excited to hear your perspective today about what happened. But I think, unlike Annette, you've had a lot of things going on your whole life with spirit that maybe you didn't understand.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay, I'm going to read out the bio that you've sent me, and then we'll get into your story. Zoe Pennant, known as the Sage, has been on a spiritual journey most of her life. In her 20s, she became more aware of her existence, wanting to understand who she is and why she is here. Today, she has come to know this journey called life is for spiritual growth, which we choose to experience and can choose to learn from and unpack. Zoe has been a meditator for over 20 years, connecting with Tibetan meditation through her lineage, as she is a quarter Tibetan. We were just talking about before I turned the recording on. She's the United Nations. She's got Tibetan.
I like that. United Nation.
What other was Tibetan, Scottish? What else have you got in your lineage?
European, African, Asian, Indian.
Oh, darling, I think you've covered most of the continents. You've got it. There you are, the United Nations. Anyway, where am I? Meditation. Oh, I've lost my place here. Totally lost my place. The Sage, her spiritual name, was given to her by a spiritual teacher that saw the Sage within her. She then realized the Sage is within us all and wanted to share the love. So who was your spiritual teacher? Was that someone in Tibet?
No, it was someone that I met over here in England, actually. And I met him, and he, while I was meeting him, he was like oh, I can pick up on your energy, I can pick up on your spirit. And we had a nice talk and a nice connection at the time. And while he was not reading me, but he was connecting with my energy, and he said, do you know that you're the sage? And he wasn't the only person to say that to me. I have had many people say along those lines, you have an energy of this, of a sage, of the sage. But it wasn't till he said it to me, I said, okay, Zoe, how many times is people going to be saying that to you, and you're not going to be okay with connecting with that side of you,
Yeah,
you
owning
know,
it. Owning it.
and owning it.
Mm,
And for me, it got to the stage where I was like, I'm ready in this lifetime to own it
mm.
and to grow and to experience. It's like a plant that becomes a flower, and then you choose to let that flower blossom on
Yeah.
its own.
Mm.
And I got to that stage. So since he's given me that name, I've owned it, and I've really, really blossomed, to be honest. You know, when you
Yeah.
can look out of yourself
Yeah.
and see the blossoming, and it's nice.
Yeah.
That's what I can say.
Oh,
It's
that's
nice.
beautiful. Anyway, let
Yeah.
me finish this bio. She is sharing the story of her experience today to help empower the love and energy that is in us all. I mean, that's the thing about the sage. We're all sages when we're not in these physical
Yeah.
bodies. And so when one person owns it, it allows other people to own it.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, really. Zoe is the
Yes.
founder of Dyslexia for the Wise, which creates and delivers special educational training and courses for people who have been recognized with dyslexia. She is an educational psychologist, meditation teacher who delivers mindfulness classes, movement meditation, Tibetan meditation, and art drawing. She's the author of 4 published books: Wholeness Within, A Spiritual Guide to Self-Knowledge, Freedom of Thought, A Scrabbled Mind, and children's book. Oh, so you wrote a children's book. A
Yeah.
Nubian story, a Nubian story to tell. Now, hang on, is that 2
Yeah.
books or 1 book?
That's the children's book. That's the children's one.
Ah, okay. Zoe
Yeah.
is also an artist, foster parent of 3 children, mother of 2, grandmother, wife, and the energy of all things that you put here. It's like, let me just slip that in with all those roles that I play, you know, like wife, grandmother, foster mother, and the energy of all things. I thought that was yeah, we have to
Yeah.
remember who we are, what we are. Like Paul Selig says, I know who I am, I know what I am, I know how I serve. You know, with the who is, we're all an extension of infinite
Yeah.
intelligence, source energy, the energy of all things, as you said, playing the
Yeah.
roles as mother, you know, dyslexic
Yes.
teacher, meditation teacher, or dyslexic person. Or obviously,
Yeah.
you had dyslexia when you were younger.
Yes, I still have it now. I still choose to use the title, even though I see dyslexia as creative thinkers.
Mm,
So we're very creative. We have a mind that can take us to a place that can be really great, and it can really evolve us if we choose to connect with it in that way. So that is the reason why I still take on that title, because I love to help others. And by me taking on that title or that word, dyslexia, I'm able to help so much people. You know, I also have, I'm on the spectrum. So I can say that I'm on the spectrum of Asperger's or autism as well. I have dyspraxia, dyscalculia. I have it all. I really do, you know. And if we take away that label, because we know we work with labels in this lifetime, but if we take away the label, it's really just how our creative mind chooses to experience this lifetime. But at the moment, I really do, I'm proud to be who I am, and I'm proud to take on the labels, because I know it helps not just myself, but it helps others as well. And that's part of why I'm here on this earth. So I'm quite happy to take on all the labels that is here on this earth that I need to experience.
yeah, that's beautiful. I was a dyslexic child as well, and what I realized is that I came into this life to really develop my intuitive and psychic abilities. And so I
Yes.
can get very lost in the mind, as we all can, in interesting and, like wanting to know, wanting to know, wanting to know. And so I think that my
Yes.
soul really wanted me to feel and to like look for the knowing within rather than through books and study and reading. And so
Yeah.
couldn't read or write as a kid and had special ed classes and they couldn't teach me and they were
Mm,
frustrated and called me dumb. But I was this
mm,
brilliant artist, could draw
yeah.
anything and had this
See?
unbelievably creative mind and a really
Mm,
high IQ, but couldn't read or write. So yeah, the
yeah.
dyslexic mind is such a creative mind. It's such a beautiful mind.
Yes,
And
it
I have
is.
a young nephew who's exactly the same, but he's 18 now and he's really suffering with this label of being called stupid. And he'll tell you that he's stupid because he can't read or write, like
Mm,
he really can't read or write. And
yeah.
so it's a bit of a curse having the dyslexic label for some. So it's great to see
Yeah.
someone like you who wears it with pride and can
Yeah.
show people that it's actually not a
Mm.
problem. It's actually a gift. Yeah.
But I can say that it hasn't always been that way.
Mm,
So
yeah.
just like your nephew, when
Mm,
I was younger, I wasn't diagnosed. I didn't get no help. I never done homework,
yeah. He
and
doesn't do homework
luckily,
either.
yeah,
Doesn't do
I just
homework.
never done homework. I
Mm.
just got away with it for some reason. And it wasn't until I got older and I realized this is just how everyone's brain is. I just really thought everyone saw writing in that way and saw words in that way because I have word blindness. So when I'm reading, the words really do jump out and they miss. And and when I'm writing, I miss out a word or I miss out a letter. So constantly every single day when I'm writing, I have to make sure I proofread maybe a bit more than the average person, but I still get it done.
You know what I
And
do,
that,
Zoe? I get the computer to read it to me. So I can look
yeah,
at something I've written. I have to say I've pretty much overcome my dyslexia now because I really needed to bring my logical mind back online
yes,
to be able to do what I do in the world. So I'm
yes,
pretty good these days, but I do, I probably do the odd typo and misspell much like anybody does. But if I get the
yes,
computer to read it to me, I pick it up
mm,
instantly. Like I can hear
yeah,
it much better than I can see it on the page.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I still put out newsletters with lots of typos. Anyway, let's get into your story. So you've given me a little bit of a synopsis here. You felt like at the age of 3, you looked around and thought, who are these people? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. It was my history has been exactly what you just said. And I didn't feel, I think, what are these people like? Or it was like, what are these people like? Well, who are these people? It was a feeling in my spirit and in my soul. And at a young age, I did not speak straight away. So, not that I couldn't speak, I chose not to speak. And even now, my language, that's part of my dyslexia, but I'm not really a language person. I'm someone who connects through vibration and I connect through energy much more than speaking. And you would know this if we started speaking for a couple of hours, I would start to mess up on my words and my pronunciation of words will start to mumble. And then you get to see that, okay, I just need to be quiet. I need to absorb and I need to be able to communicate in that way. However, when I was younger, I I understood that side of me a bit more. So when everyone was thinking, oh, she should be speaking and she should be speaking more. She's 3 now and she's 4. And I didn't want to. And I know why now. I know why now, the way we communicate as humans, but at the time I just did not want to. And I used to always play on my own. And my mother used to always say, oh, she's there playing with spirits. She's talking to spirits. I'd speak to people that weren't there. And I liked it and it was okay. And I wasn't scared. And that was my world. And looking around my family, so there's 6 of us, and I'm the 4th one. So I have 2 older brothers and an older sister. And when I looked around my family, it took me a while to fit in. So I actually would say, okay, who are these people? I need to get to know them. Okay, it wasn't just an instant, connection, like, oh, these are my family. I understood that, okay, I'm here, I'm in this world, and I need to get to know it, and I need to get to know these people. So it was really surreal for me, and it was something that I couldn't speak to anyone about. And then I got to a stage of traveling. So I would actually go into this porthole. It's like a portal, and it was like red, and I would go into it, and then I wouldn't know where I was gone, so I can't remember that. And then I would come back, and sometimes I might be on the floor in the bathroom, or I might be in my bed, and I knew that I went somewhere, but I didn't know where I was actually going, or what I was going to do, but I just felt like I went somewhere. That's all that I could say. And that went on from, I would say, till I can remember. So 3, I can really remember from 3 all the way up to 11. And then 11, that's when I started having seizures, epileptic seizures. And that was becoming scary now. And before that, I think I was starting to already get bruises on my body when I woke up. But that happened all the way through my life. So even sometimes now it still happens. But when the seizure came, that's when I was like, okay, this is becoming scary now. What is going on? No one could tell me anything. My mum would take me doctors. They couldn't find nothing on my brain or anything like that while I was having seizures. It started off with night seizures. So I knew, not when I was younger, but when I got older, looking back, I knew it was something to do with my traveling, because it was being a nighttime when I would think that I might have traveled somewhere. Then I would get a seizure. So it wasn't until I got older I thought maybe there's a connection there, but not at the time. I just was terrified, to be honest.
Right. So how often a week would the traveling happen? Like, did it happen every week, or once a month, or?
To tell you the
Suppose you don't
truth,
remember.
back then, because it was a while ago, I
Yeah.
can't pick up the of how, if I know it was frequently, I can't say if it's weekly, daily. It was enough for me to remember. It was enough for me to think. Back then, I didn't think I was different. I thought maybe everyone else was going through the same thing, but
Just not
I knew
talking
I
about it.
just, yeah, and I knew there were times, there was so much of my childhood where I just needed to be alone. I felt better being alone than being with humans, being with other children. I felt better being on my own and just connecting with the energy, or the spirits, if you want to call it that. Whatever word you would like to call it, I don't mind. All I know is that I felt safe and I felt good in that surrounding. And to tell you the truth, I still do now.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is that, have you had a regression therapy and found out where you went when you were going through the portals? But then we're going to talk about
Yeah.
your connection to Chon, as they're called, the beings. Did you ask them about that when they started coming through to you? Did you ask them about your childhood, or?
I didn't need to ask them
Uh-huh.
because they told me.
Okay.
So when they came, they said, we've always been with you.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And we've always been with you, and you've always traveled to us,
Mm-hmm.
and you've always traveled to your inner home.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they will call it, your inner home.
Mm-hmm.
And I understood that because I know when I close my eyes, I'm there. I know when I meditate and I just close my eyes, I'm there. And when I say I'm there, I'm really like in a space form of somewhere, So I understood that. I didn't need to ask. To tell you the truth, there wasn't much questions I asked the being, to be honest,
Sounds like they were
because
just like flooding you with information. So
yeah,
you didn't even really
yeah,
need to ask questions, because you were just receiving the information that they were just like
yeah,
downloading.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So after 11, what happened? What happened with the seizures?
The seizures carried on all the way up to probably about 26. So 25, I had a major seizure where I ended up in intensive care. And
Wow.
that's where I had a near-death experience.
Oh, did
And
you?
now, yeah, because I had my son, and we was meant to both die. And he's
Right.
19 now.
Right.
And we ended up in intensive care, and because I was having so much seizures with the pregnancy. So the seizures also connected with my hormones.
Mm-hmm.
So every month, even when I was young, I started my period at 11 when the seizures came as well.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So the doctor said, oh, maybe it's to do with your hormones and how you're connecting with your hormones. So ever since that time, every month, I never ever had a productive experience with that time of the month. I just managed it. I literally just managed it.
Mm-hmm.
So when 25 came and I went into intensive care, I was 26 and a weeks pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So my son was premature, and I was just having seizures after seizures. Before that, it's quite surreal because I was just having blackouts. So I was pregnant, just having blackouts. And again, the doctors did not know. They were giving me irons. They were giving me the
Oh,
liquid irons.
the doctors have
And they
no
would just
clue,
say,
really. I mean, you know,
never.
what I'm thinking is that the energy that you're carrying from the I won't say origin of your soul, because all our soul comes from the same origin, but obviously the frequency you've brought into this physical
Yeah,
lifetime is having some adjustment to the physical form.
yeah,
And
yes.
you know, I've spoken to many people who have recognized themselves as, you know, aliens or ETs or something. I remember years ago, before I was podcasting, I met a young man at a seminar who said, yeah, I'm an alien, I'm here on Earth, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, you're an alien, really? Well, what's it like to be an alien? He goes, I have headaches the whole time. And I was like this young healer, and I'm like, I can fix you. And he goes, you can't fix me. It's just
Yeah,
it's just this adjustment that hasn't been
yeah,
worked out. But I suspect it's about upgrading the DNA to match the frequency. It's just a mismatch of frequency, you know, and you've
yeah,
got to upgrade the physical frequency to match the
yeah,
spiritual frequency, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Um,
It's about balancing out the energy field of coming into this physical form,
yeah.
and being so young and experiencing what I experienced in such a young age, where I could identify, okay, this is happening. Okay, it probably would have been different if I wasn't identifying it, but I was aware.
Mm.
Every aspect of my consciousness, I was aware of it. And I think that's what made it more, at stages, scary, at stages frightening, and at stages nice,
Nice.
and at peace, you
So,
know.
did the beings give you any information about the seizures and the blackouts and the, you know, did they give you any information about that? I suspect you didn't ask them.
Well, what happened was when the beings came in 2017, that was just the other day, as you know, a couple of years ago. So
Yeah.
I was already spiritually aware of a lot of things.
Mm.
So when they came into where I'm sitting now is
Mm-hmm.
where I was when they came, and opposite is the actually door of where they appeared. And so that part was, oh my gosh, am I seeing things? You know, let me wipe my eyes. Am I really seeing them? But because I was so already spiritually aware, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this can't be true. It just was like, okay, this is happening, but am I really seeing right? Let me make sure, you know. And straight away they said, draw us. If you draw us, then your fear would just go just like that. And I drew them straight away. And that's the picture that I put up. But they came in freeze. I just done the one picture of the
Yeah.
free, always in freeze.
Okay. So they said
And
when you draw us, your fear will go. Your fear.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
shock, the fear, the questions that come into our subconscious, all that would just go. And
Mm,
it did.
mm, mm,
It
mm,
literally just went. And then so I was able to acknowledge them. And it was just me, and we have two cats here. And
mhm.
one of the cat acknowledged them, Star. He was the boy cat, and he would play around them, and you know, and stuff like that. So that felt good for me, because I was like, okay, well, it's not just me. That's good. I don't care if it's no other humans, you know. I'm okay with the cat identifying that you guys are here. I'm happy with that, you know. And then it started from there,
Okay,
you
okay.
know.
Well, let's get into that. We kind of skipped over the rest of your story, but okay, we'll go back to 2017. Three beings came to visit. So you're sitting in where you are now in your home, and you look up and you see three beings with your outside eyes, with your physical eyes, standing
Yeah,
in the doorway or next to the doorway.
yeah, yeah. And they were small. They were very small, with big heads, no eyes, no ears, no nose, and no mouth.
So the image that you've drawn, and I'll pop it up on the video, it's kind of like this big black head, but it's kind of fuzzy. Is that fuzziness like the energy around their head? Like, what's the fuzziness?
Yeah. So it was like um, an aura was around them, but the aura had no color. So it was
Okay.
even quite challenging for me to draw.
Yeah, I can
I haven't
imagine.
drawn anything like that before, you know. So it was quite challenging, you know, to get an aura that is no color and that is no substance, you know, to even draw was really challenging for me to draw.
You know what I'm getting? Apart from getting my head activating, I'm getting the image of, like they do in Hollywood movies when they kind of do like an energy. It's kind of like they blur this. It's like a blurry energy. So it's clear, but you know
Yeah,
there's an energy around someone, or sometimes it looks like you're looking
yeah,
through water. Is that what it looked
yes,
like? Yeah.
yeah, 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 definitely. That's
Yeah.
exactly how it was. So to be able to draw it was, and I
Yeah.
drew it quite
Difficult.
quick.
Mm.
I drew it quite quick because I was thinking, okay, they might disappear. Maybe, you know, I don't know if I'm seeing a dream. So let me just draw it quick, you know. So that drawing was a sketch. It was really, really quick. And I just shaded it in quickly. And everything just disappeared of any form of, is it them? Is it real? Is it not? Is it a dream? You know, are you scared? Are you not? What does this mean? All of that just totally disappeared, and it just became the understanding of, okay, we are here right now. You know, why are you here? You know, like, literally, why are you here? And I wasn't planning on really telling anyone, to be honest, or anything like that. It just was like, okay, let's chill, let's come together. What do you want from me? Anything that you feel you need for me to do, I will do, you know. And it was very much like that. I didn't think anyone was gonna see the picture up on Facebook and contact me or anything like that, because anyone that really knows me knows that my words that I use and things that I use are very much like that. So they wouldn't have really been that surprised. They just would have said, okay, that's Zoe doing her thing and sharing her thing. So I didn't think that Annette was going to come along and think and say, okay, you know, I want to know more, or anyone, to be honest. I was quite happy to keep it to myself, and whatever they wanted me to do, you know, once it was of helping everyone and of love and anything like that, I was willing to do it, to be honest.
Well, I think that Annette coming along was perfect because I don't think you were supposed to keep it to yourself.
No,
It's part of the
no,
evolution of human consciousness. It's part of
yeah,
disclosure. It's part of our awareness, expanded awareness of knowing that we're
mm,
multidimensional, we're human, we're
yes,
not human, we're spirit, we're physical, we're all these things. And I mean, the beauty of Annette is that she's loud and boisterous and she wants to tell everybody, which is just perfect. If you need a message,
yeah,
tell Annette. She's funny. So,
yeah,
whereas you're a bit more reserved, and as you said, you like to be more alone and just get on with things.
yeah,
So it was perfect that Annette came along, really.
yeah. Everything happens for a reason.
Hmm.
It needed to be an energy like Annette to, you know, pop her ears up and think, oh, I want to know more. What is this? You know, and I'm
Yeah.
always willing to share. So that would never have been a problem. But I'm not really the one to go just sharing for the sake of sharing, unless they told me to do that. Then I would have been right up there.
All right, so they start downloading all this information because they were absolutely prolific. We got into it with Annette, but I don't think we even got into most of it. It's just they shared so much. What was the first thing they said to you apart from, here we are, g'day, how are you? I'm sure they didn't say that, but
no. Well, how it was that they started. It's like we was getting to know each other. So it wasn't straight away, oh, we're here to talk about you humans. You need to do this and you need to do that. And it was nothing like that. It was really a chit chat, and it was nice because I didn't have that scared energy inside of me. We could be open. And what they did say straight away is that we are not here to be a fortune teller. We're not here to tell people about their future and this is going to happen and you're going to get this and you're going to get that. We're really not here to do that. We're here to unite energy, unite beings, and to continue to repeat. Because what they did say is that there's many other energy beings, aliens, guides, angels, whatever word you want to call it, around, many
different levels, forms of consciousness.
And they're here like every other energy is here to remind us. So everything's going to be a repeat. It's just that us humans are going to have our own perception and maybe say it in different ways, but everything's going to be a repeat. And it's going to repeat and going to be a repeat until we get to the stage of becoming from separation to oneness again. And until that time comes, which we're still not there yet, it's going to be repeating the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, look, absolutely. It's the same with this show. I've been I've been having conversations for like over 25 years with different spiritual teachers, and it's the same conversation said in a myriad of different ways. I mean, Esther Hicks from the Teachings of Abraham says, you tell us that we give you too much information, she said, but we can make it really simple. Get happy.
Yeah.
And then she says, oh,
it's true.
That's too simple. Like, tell us more. And so we give you lots of words. Yeah, it's the same conversation. Yeah, feel good, connect to your source, get happy, as she said, and feel
have fun.
Have fun. Yeah. The oneness, feel that connection to everyone.
Yeah.
And we're all in this together. We get happy, we get sad. We're all going through the same things, just with different stories.
Yes.
Oh,
exactly.
Beautiful. And what else so they said, we're not here to give you fortune tellers, which we were talking about this with Blair Styrer, who was in the Inner Sanctum, who channels a spirit guide called Tabash, and we were talking about how guides never tell you what to do. They, they guide you. They give you information, and then it's up to you to use that information, to implement that information.
I what I really loved about their energy is that they came when they needed to come and they just disappeared just like that when it was needed. I did not need to say to them, well, I'm going work now, because I still had my life to live every single day, and that did not change. So when they went, they literally came out of my consciousness. I wouldn't remember them. I would not remember them to even say, oh, where were they? Oh, they've gone now. I just wouldn't remember them, like nothing. And then they will pop up again, and then they will remember. And they've done that all the time for me to still have my life, for me to still do what I needed to do. And then they would come up when they needed to come up. And I appreciated that, because they know what I do in this lifetime on earth, and it wasn't, and they know that, because obviously we are all one, and obviously they're going to know my contract and what I'm here to do, and they would know what my mindset in this physical form and what my brain, the balance of my brain and my mindset can handle and not handle. So that concept suited me. Might not have suited somebody else, but it suited me for them to just go completely and then come back when I needed to come back. So they would come in I could be in the bathroom, I could be downstairs, it got to a stage where I told my hubby, and again, he knows me, he knows my energy, he knows my spiritual path. So he wasn't like, oh, you're talking nonsense or stuff like that. He was like, okay, so I could share with him, which was nice. And it got to a stage that sometimes they would come in to the door. They never came close. Even now, when they do come back, they never come close. They're always just away a bit. So when I would be upstairs in the bedroom and we're just chatting away and they will appear, he got to a stage of knowing when they're there, not through me saying it, through Star, the cat. So when the Scar cat would run around, he would be like, oh, your beans are here, aren't they? I would laugh and I'd say, yeah, they're here. And it got to that stage where they were in our bedrooms with us and he was fine. And and sometimes he would say, have they got a message or whatever? And sometimes they would have a message, sometimes they would just be there. So it's not all the time. And sometimes I might speak to them. I didn't really have, I wasn't like Annette and that's why it was good that Annette was part of it. Because Annette was like, oh my gosh, I want to ask this. I need to, and she had that energy, which was lovely.
Full of questions.
Because you need the balance. You need the balance.
Yeah.
Where I was more, because they were with me constantly, they became me. So I was more chilled out, and I was more, when they would say things about death, for instance, and they would talk about death. And that's why now I say there was no such things for me as a near-death experience, because we spoke about that. And they said, well, you didn't have a near-death experience because we are in death. We are death. So you just had another experience of something that was for you to learn and experience.
Okay, well, let's get into this. We are death. So basically they're just saying death is just a transition from one dimension to another. And we exist in this different dimension. So therefore we are what you would call death. When you had your near-death experience, what happened? What did you experience?
Yeah. So outside of me, I was in intensive care where they said, okay, it looks like we can't help her. So they got the priest in to give me my last rites. And so I was at that stage for the people outside of me. Within me, I went to a place of, I only can call it like a womb of nothingness. So there was no color. So because there was no color, the only color I could honestly say, if I needed to visualize it, was maybe black, only because there was no color. But the warmness, the warmness of this so-called womb was so, I know people talk about this all the time and they can't put words to it. And I understand that, because there's no words that can express and try to explain anything to do with another dimension or another experience that you're going through. But what I know is that I felt at peace. I didn't remember I had children. I didn't remember I was human. I didn't remember I was a female. I didn't remember nothing. It was just the bliss of oneness, energy or frequency of oneness. And even the words that I heard wasn't words. I'm just saying it in this word form because I'm back in the physical, but it wasn't in words form. So I was in this thing, this energy field, and it said to me, you have to go back. And I said, oh, no, I'm okay here. I don't want to go back. And they said, you're only experiencing this because you were so afraid of death. We wanted you to know what death is like. Now you need to go back and complete your purpose on earth. And when you complete it, this is where you be coming back. So since that time, I have never, ever, ever, ever been afraid of death again. I can't wait for my time. And I'm happy for my time when it comes, because I know when that moment comes, I've done my purpose. So every morning now, when I wake up, I know I've got still work to do, and I'm happy to do that.
You know, Zoe, you have put it in a nutshell. You have explained every near-death experience, I feel. I mean, even though, again, everyone has a different experience when they go to a different dimension. Some people go to see dead relatives, some people go back to the oneness, some people are in different dimensions, and, you know, they're looking at angels or aliens, or look, everyone has a different experience, but we want you were afraid of death, so we wanted to show you what death is like. I think that just sums it up for every near-death experiencer, because as a human society, death is so feared. And
Yeah.
so I asked my mob years ago, gosh, probably 16, 18, maybe 20 years ago, I don't know, you know, as a healer, how can I help this world? Like, what can I address? Because there's just so much, there's sickness and there's death. And they said, I was actually asking them about what I should write about. They said, write about what you know. And I knew about death because Mum had died when I'm 16, and they like kept dropping off. So I like totally knew about death, and I was chatting to all of them on the other side. And they said, death is, you know, what causes the most pain on this earth? And they said, death causes the most pain. You know, people grieve and they loss, and so the fact that they said to you, you were so afraid of death and we wanted to show you, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Yeah. It's nothing to be afraid of, and it's nothing to fear, and it's nothing to grieve over. I mean, people still like hang on to their grief. It's like, it's okay. People go through grief and it's a terrible thing. Yeah, I get that, but you don't have to. It's a choice.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, it is. It is a choice. Yeah.
Because they're not lost. They're just in a different dimension. Connect to that dimension and you've got them back.
Yeah.
That's the journey, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think with this so-called word of death, we going back to labels, it's how you connect to the word that we're using, because I'm sure if death was called love, you know, then the energy will shift, and you know, the love of death will change of how we see it. Exactly. So yeah,
I know words hold an energy, don't they? Which is why I
very
love
powerful.
The younger generation and how they take a word and completely change the meaning of it. Like, you know, the way they say, oh man, that was fully sick, you know, which means that was wonderful. And sick in our vernacular is like terrible. So I love that they can take a word and just shift it and make it the complete opposite meaning. Like, we can play with this energy. We don't have to like stay stuck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love that you said change death to love. Oh, what happened to him? Oh, he loved.
Yeah. He just loved. That's all. He just loved.
What do you mean? Oh, well, he left his body and he went back to love.
Love. Yeah. I love that.
I love it too. I'm going to start using it.
Yeah.
I went to not a funeral. I went to a love fest the other day.
Yeah, we can start it off. We need to start it off.
Absolutely.
Let it grow.
Let's start a movement, Zoe. Okay. Absolutely. I totally see that. Look, I totally see that. When people die, I tune into what's going to happen. And if people are going to go to funerals and cry and mourn and stuff like that, I usually don't go. When I say don't go, if it's someone's grandmother or mother or someone that I kind of knew through somebody else and didn't know them personally. But sometimes, I remember I was vacuuming once and someone's mother had died, and I knew her, but not well. You know, I had met her as a child and stuff. And I usually don't go to funerals because they're so sad. And then I'm vacuuming and I'm like, I'm totally going to this funeral. And when I went, it was this amazing celebration. It was joyous. And, you know, there was some grief and sadness, but on the whole, it was this joyous celebration of life. And I thought, this is what funerals need to be. They need to be a joyous celebration. Right.
What I did do, though, which would probably make you laugh, is when that revelation came to me, and obviously it wasn't my time yet to continue on while I'm still here. I chose to do something in the physical that not many people do. So everything has been paid for already. So my funeral was paid for. I know how I want it done. My the will's sorted. My children sorted. My grandchildren sorted. Everything sorted. So I'm free to really just be. And they're free to know that whenever it's my time and they're still here, they know that what needs to be done. They know my energy, they know if they choose to show that emotion, crying emotion, try not to let it be too long, because you've got a life and I'm in your spirit,
cry and grieve.
Come
just
on,
don't
you
make
don't,
it for too long.
you don't need to, you don't need to at all, actually. But if you do, it's your choice. But try not to hang around that energy for too long, because we are all one. And I've brought up my children to, every time they had to go out the house, and when they got older, when they needed to travel on their own, I would say, walk with God or walk with the universe. And I would always say that to them. And every time I said that to them, I literally, like a bird, they would be free. And when I say those words, I mean it. And they understood that. And I would always say to them, if anything was to happen and you're out there and you're getting into trouble, or someone's coming after you or anything like that, call on my energy and I will be there. And they learned that. And they don't wait for me to pass away and then say, yeah, I'm going to call on my mum now because she's on the other side. No, my energy's here. And even though I'm not with you, you can call on my energy and I will find you and I will connect. And I grew them to understand that, and understand that you don't wait for this love death. You don't wait for that to happen. You can connect. Some people say, oh, they have spirit guides and they have their angel now. I'm your angel here.
Zoe, that is so beautiful. You are most certainly the sage. That is so beautiful and such an aha moment. That is so beautiful. Yeah, it's just speaking to our multidimensional nature. Just because I'm physically focused and you see this physical body as me, I'm so much more than this, and I can be with you wherever you are in this world. Yeah. That is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, you're lucky kids. Well, how did they cope with all of this, with the beings and you talking about it? And
well, again, they've grown up with me. So that other day, actually, we were speaking and they were saying, oh, we've never had a normal mum, and they
normal's
actually said
overrated.
that. We don't know what it's like to have a mum, like a mum, and they were trying to explain, like, their friend's mum, that it's like, they just have, when they were younger and they just have dinner and they just have this, I would be like, well, we have to, I'm just meditating first before this. Or there's some experiences where I included them in my spiritual growth because I did not want it to be separated. And plus, they have it in them. They both have it in them. They have the energy healing in them. They have the psychicness of, oh, when they have a dream, it will come true. So I saw that very young as well. And I did not want them to be alone like I was.
Yeah.
So I shared all these stuff with them, and both of them, like my oldest son's 27 now, and my youngest is 19. So they're big now, and they've gone off, and they know that they come to me now, not really as a mother. I'd be even okay if they chose not to call me mother at this stage, because I'm a spiritual guide to them now.
Wow.
And they come to me to say things. They come to me for guidance. They come to me sometimes not for guidance, just to share. Oh, this is happening, Mum, but I'm thinking to do this and my energy's thinking this. I'm going to have to meditate on it, or, and they're still living their life. They're still going through things. They still need to work. They're still paying bills. One's going uni, and he wants to do his thing. But they have that aura about them and that that armor of inner self and inner guidance that I know if it was my time to transition today, I would be happy, because I feel like I've shared enough now to them where they can really, where they are flying off now. And they just come for little guidance at times, and I would always be there to guide them in that way. And then we have the grandchildren now. So my oldest grandchild, he's 4, and it was about a couple of months ago, he said, Nanny, I was like, yes. He said, I'm not coming back and staying over at your house. There's ghosts and spirits, and I don't like them, and I'm not coming back. And I thought, I love him. I just so love him. And I said, that is so, my dear, I said, do not be afraid. I said, what we will do is change the energy of the house. So I brought him round and I said, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to change the color of the house, of the certain parts of the house. You can choose what color you want, and let's change energy, because that's all it needs. It just needs to change energy. And I said, why is it that you're afraid? Because it was nice to, he was honest with what he was feeling. And not everyone's going to be okay with connecting to anything. You know, there is going to be some people that are really afraid and never connect, you know, in this lifetime, and just shut it away, you know. But he was open and he was fine. He was just said, no, it's just something that I see sometimes, Nanny, in the house, and they annoy me, you know. And he's only 4, you know. And I was like, okay, so if they annoy, I said, just send them love and stuff like that. And I tried to find out where it was in the house and stuff like that. So again, it's going through generations, but grandchildren are picking up things already at a young age. Again, where I had no one to speak to, I'm trying to get them. Yeah.
He's got you, and maybe, and his mum too, or his dad. Okay, so what is he, did you ask him, like, what is he perceiving? Is he perceiving like human forms? Like, what I'm seeing as I look into your home is like there's this unbelievable portal like around you, which a lot of spirits that have crossed over, or a lot of people who are in another dimension who have been physically focused, see as a way of connecting back into this dimension. So I'm kind of getting that there's, you know, he calls them ghosts, that there's quite a few, you know, people that have left their physical body and returned to love, that are there, like trying to reconnect to this dimension. So he's seeing ghosts is not the right word, but I guess we could call them ghosts.
For him, he called them ghosts.
Yeah.
And that's all he knew. And he doesn't even really know about those sort of things. So even his mum was like, what made him say ghost?
Yeah.
Because we don't say that word.
Yeah.
I don't say that word. But I understood when he was explaining that. And I know what he meant, because the times that he said he's felt the energy, I believed him, because I felt an energy. So it wasn't like, oh, maybe he's just, you know, being a bit, you know, had a nightmare, or he's in his dreams, or anything like that. And from 3 years old, I'm telling you, he would wake up and be telling you his dreams. Oh, I had a dream about this, Nanny, and I had a dream about that. And I was like, wow, that's amazing for such a young age to even have that concept, to know what a dream is, to know, to wake up to say, this is what's happened, when I haven't spoken to him in that way. And definitely his mother and her family are not spiritual at all. They're not from that world. They don't, you know, even meditation, they're like, how do you meditate and stuff like that. So they're not consciously about that sort of energy and that sort of way of life, like my 2 boys and myself. So for him to naturally have that, it's a thing where, and my son understands as well, so we guide him together. And it's nice because his mum is coming over now, where she's saying, okay, well, I want to learn more.
Oh, cool.
You know, because I need to understand my son. And it's true. you know, she doesn't want to get to the stage of being afraid of him or he's just talking rubbish. Because I did say to her that try not to dampen him down. Let him express. Let him be okay to speak. You know, let him be okay to share what he's sharing, and just embrace it and speak it with him. If it's anything fearful, let's work with that fear and change it into another form. And that's what we've been doing with him. That's what I do with everyone else. And
Isn't it
it's
beautiful
about just
how
changing form.
the young
Yeah.
ones are teaching us, because they're
Yes.
their reality is this psychic ability, and it is their reality, and they're going to speak
Yes.
about it. And unlike maybe our generation, they're not going to be dumbed down. You know, they're going to sort of like
Mm.
say, well, this is my reality, and don't tell me it's not. They're kind of
Yeah.
teaching the older generation to open to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to get back to the beings. Did I know you didn't ask them too many questions, and Annette did. Like, I'm just sort of like going through these human linear questions, like where are they from? What is their dimension like? What are their societies like? Did you ask
Mm.
them any of those questions? Because obviously you're one of them, in that you're an aspect of you is living in that dimension. Did you sort of
Yeah.
ask them about that? Like, who am I when I'm there, and what do I do? And
Yeah. But when I asked them about the name, I couldn't really figure out what they were saying. Basically, in a nutshell, they really weren't about words. They
yeah.
really weren't about, we could be called anything. Yeah, we could be called aliens, beings, Chan, this, that, the nothing, whatever. It's not about that. And they were really specific about um, asking things just for the sake of it, you know. So I was really conscious of not asking the same old maybe things that people may ask or people might want to know, because I had that spiritual awareness already of, okay, I believe this consciousness, I believe what's happening here, I believe what they are saying, so I'm taking this serious. So I was more on that level, like, tell me what we need to do, tell me why you're here, tell me what I need to share, if I need to share anything, tell me if it's just about me and it could just be my growth, tell me if you're just here for me to see you, for part of my contract, to
Mm,
let me know that where I was when I was younger, why I've, you know, my platform and my chapters to get to date, to here. So it was more about things like that. And then
yeah.
when I would share those things with them, they would say things like, you humans, so they would say that a lot, you humans are take this earthly world too seriously,
Mm-hmm.
too seriously. One thing that they did say, and it's just come to me now, and they were really profound about the way that they said it. And before I even go into it, I forgot to say to you that they never come to me through words. It's through vibrations, and then I change it into words. So part of my creative mind is that I see through video, everything through video.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so some people see through pictures. I see some through pictures, but it's mostly through video. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why my pronunciation of words takes long to come down, to come into speech,
Mm-hmm.
because I see everything through video. And
Mm-hmm.
so when they were speaking to me, it was through seeing them, and then through vibration, frequency, and then I'm translating it into words. So what they said was, is that this, us humans do not have the physical power to damage this world and the universe. That ain't gonna happen. The physical beings of humans, because we're, our conscious mind, we don't even use it how we're meant to be using it.
Mm-hmm.
We're very limited of how we're still using it to date. They're talking about
Mm-hmm.
generations to come is going to be different, and
Different.
generations to come,
Mm-hmm.
thousands of years. They're talking about now. And they didn't really want to go too much on thousands of years from now, because they're saying we're here to date in this timeline for you guys, for the now. So they were here to really talk about now. And they were saying that we don't have enough fun. We don't choose to experience. We think we experience the present moment. We think we do it when we say, yes, it's all about the present moment. But we really don't, because at the same time, we're always still thinking about the past, or we're always still thinking about the future at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a conscious thing. So, and again, they kept on saying, until we get to the stage of really practicing what we're preaching, we do a lot of talking, but we're still not doing the practicing. We're here to be taught on this earthly realm. We're here to, we're training. We're here to, it's a school, you know. So if we keep on thinking that we know it all, we know this or we know that, we're blocking ourselves from even our mindset to grow how we used to grow. And they took it back to our ancestors that done the, in Kemet or Egypt, when they done the pyramids and stuff. They said, and you be able to connect with your spirit guides at the moment to connect, to see if we're talking on the same page. But back then, which is just another dimension, it's literally just there, they were able to do the things that they done because they chose to use the elements. They chose to use elements. They chose to use the universe to get to where they needed to get to do what they needed to do, to use to open up their mindset to be able to, if you want to say, deliver in this lifetime, to be able to put things in place for others to be able to grow or do what they needed to do. Now, for us in this time that we're living at, it's like that's all forgotten. It's like that's all forgotten.
So what you're saying is the ancient Egyptians, or the beings that lived on Earth, and those, they had an understanding of the power of their mind, the power of consciousness, and they were able to maybe build those structures and things that we think would need big heavy cranes, because they had
Yeah,
that knowledge of the power of their mind, and that their
yeah,
thought is manifesting, that this world is a projection of mind, so I'm going to create through mind. You know, Penny
yeah,
Kelly, another amazing teacher I've had on the show, said that her beings, or her guidance, is that humanity at this time does not have the power to manifest through mind yet. And so we speak a lot about action, you know, and
yes,
a lot of motivational speakers say, you know, go out and make it happen, like act to make it happen, because
yeah,
we've forgotten the power of mind. And so we use our action to make things happen. But she
yes,
says that, you know, action coupled with consciousness is so powerful, because action creates energy. Like when you move,
yes,
you know, your muscles move, electricity starts, and so you're literally
mm,
creating energy. So when you couple that thought with action, like I remember when I was young and I used to run on the treadmill, and I'd have thoughts, how they would manifest so quickly after I'd been on the
yes,
treadmill, because the thought and the
yes,
action had sort of expanded the consciousness, which
yes.
brought that into being sort of faster. Yeah, so
Mhm.
that's just fascinating. Yeah, that's fascinating about ancient Egypt. Yeah, power of mind. But we're going to get back there. I mean, that's what these
Yeah,
conversations are
and
about,
this
right,
is,
Tom?
yeah, and this is what we're here for, and
Right.
this is what we are doing as well. And the more that we do, and the more that we're being part of, it can only manifest, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. The power of consciousness, the power of mind. Look, you know, one of the questions that you asked, you know, you said, I ask questions like, why are you here? What's your message to humanity? I think you've just told us. They're
Yeah,
here to remind us of the power of our consciousness.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And it really is as simple as that. What they used to say a lot was, you guys don't realize how simple it is. You guys really make things so complicated, literally complicated. You're making it too complicated for yourself. And this is what happens as humans when we evolve, and we evolve through speech, if I use that as an example, because we know thousands and thousands of years ago, speech came after. So before speech, we know that we had to use the telepathic side of us. You know, we had to use sound and maybe tapping and sound of music or whatever else needed to be used, body language, to be able to communicate. So they're reminding us of something that it ain't too far away that we already know. You know, but still a lot of us are still not maintaining to do it. And what goes around always comes back around anyway. So I did have a conversation about the world ending. And, you know, some people would say, you know, the world's going to end. Some people really do believe that. Some people don't. So many different concepts of what that really means to people. And I did say to them, a lot of people are frightened, you know, and a lot of people do fear. And I said to them, there's not a lot of people that's like me that believe that she went somewhere and she's okay to pass away when she's ready and everything's hunky-dory and she's put everything in place. Not everyone's going to be like that. So what about those people? Like, what can you say about that? And that's when they said, at this moment in time, humans don't have the mindset and the consciousness to make anything happen like that. However, the elements have the power of all things. So the elements connects to energy from us as well, even though we connect to energy through them. So, and it's the balance, it's the oneness. So they were trying to say we're all one, not just humans, and we're all one, all the elements, everything in the universe, the atoms, everything, we're all one. So it all balances out each other. So if we're having fear and we're thinking this and we're having that, and there's a whole collective of our energy that's thinking the same, the elements are gonna have that energy as well. So when you have things like, you know, tsunamis or things like hurricanes and stuff like that, when energy's just exploded, you know, it needs to explode, it needs to be able to change form, for it to change form again, for new to be able to come. But us humans will be afraid of that, because what comes with that, as we know what comes from that. Dying comes from that.
Well, Diane, you've just been talking about what we've been through in Australia, you know, with the fires.
Yeah.
And I've been chatting away to my mob, and they've been saying exactly the same thing. You know, you're picking up on my thoughts, because I'm sitting here thinking a lot as you're speaking. And the synchronicity between this conversation, I've just sent a newsletter out, wrote it yesterday. Well, tried to write it for weeks because it took me a while to write it, and sent it out yesterday or this morning, that said, time to walk your talk. Not giving this lip service anymore, time to walk your talk, which is exactly what you were talking about. I kind of like, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
You know, it's all very well reading and watching YouTubes and reading books and thinking, oh, that's fascinating, isn't that? And then going back into your life and being angry and upset and worried and fearful. Like, it's time to actually walk the talk. And that's exactly what the beings have said to you. And then the elements, as you're talking about the elements, I'm thinking about the fire, because during the fires, you know, we're all praying for rain, and then we had the floods like last week.
Yes.
My mob said, or Gaia, it felt like Gaia said, remember to thank the fire as you pray for rain. And I got this vision of us being able to speak to the fire and speak to the water and speak to the rain and speak to the clouds and have this relationship. And, you know, if they've got something to do, like the fire is a part of Gaia's rejuvenation. You should see, I drove down the coast last week through all the fire zones. The devastation is unbelievable, but the regrowth is exponential. You should see the regrowth. It's like a tree that's completely black within a couple of days. Drove past it, it's completely black. Drove the other way, a couple of days. It's like it has fur on it, because it's just every part of the trunk has sprouted, you know, like it's gone. It's just like, it's just, to me, when I looked at those trees with these new growths all over this black trunk, it was just like the tree's gone, yay! Just
Yeah,
like
newborn. Yeah,
freedom. Yeah. And so the fire really regenerates the bush, although it did kill millions of animals. So I'm not really quite
yeah,
sure why that happened. But yeah, when we understand we can communicate with the elements, we don't have to fight the elements. You know, here in
yeah.
Australia, we've been giving out awards to all the people that have been fighting the fires
Mm, mm.
instead of
What?
loving the fire and communicating
Yeah,
with the fire. And, you know, if you're going to burn, please don't burn my house. You know, could you go around the
yeah,
house?
yeah.
I don't know, like we've got so much to learn, haven't we,
I
really?
know we have. What they have just said, they it's weird because I think they've just come here probably about 15 minutes ago. So
Hmm.
they're here now. So they've come,
Hello.
which I didn't even ask them to come or anything like that. I don't do that with them because I don't want to use them in that way, if you
Hmm.
want to call it that. It's just a respect thing
Hmm.
that I have, you know. So they knew that I was doing this,
Hmm.
and then it was just left up to them. But they popped up and said something when you said about oh, thousands of animals,
Okay, tell me what they said.
and then you said I don't know why.
Hmm.
And what they said is that we have to remember that the thousands that continue on, there's thousands that get reborn.
Mm.
And you need to be able to cycle that. It needs to be a cycle. That again, what we do, we're attached to this death. So
Yes.
when we think thousands of people, we're like, oh my gosh, thousands and thousands have died. We're not even realizing that the same thousands and thousands have just been reborn,
Hmm.
you know. And our life is about cycles.
Mm.
And again, we have to be able to get used to that. And we have to be able to love that and bring that unity into that. And the more that we choose to see the world in that way and start to speak it and be it, yes, there's going to be some that be like, what are you guys talking about? Oh my gosh, how can you see dying in that way? And what do you mean it was 1,000 people, but there's going to, or 1,000 animals, but there's going to be 1,000 animals that's going to be reborn? We don't want to hear that. We just want to hear about the 1,000 that's just died, you know. But the more that we're able to embrace that side of that energy,
Mm.
more we'll be able to embrace it as well.
Mm.
And it's about having that conscious mind and that open mind to see the both sides
Mm.
to this story,
Okay,
you
let me
know.
ask them this because I think that, you know, understanding that there is no death, and this is what they said to me about the animals dying too. Like when you see koalas, koalas are one of the most peaceful, beautiful, like animals. Like when you look at a koala, you cannot help but have your heart melt because it looks like a baby and it's furry and it's
uh,
so soft and cute.
they're cute,
They're so
yeah.
cute. And so, like, literally millions of koalas have died, and people go, oh, this is so sad. But, you know, death is like, you know, animals understand there is no death. It's just the dropping of the body, and I'll take on another body in a minute. It's like, you know, it's a nanosecond for them. Flies come and go within days. You know, they're here. 2 days later, they're
Yeah,
dead. They're here. They're dead. They're here.
yeah,
They're dead. Um,
yeah.
so cycles, as you say. But what we witness is all the burns, you know, all the animals suffering from the burns. Like that's
Mm.
where people are really sad because there are just literally hundreds of thousands of koalas with burnt, you know, paws and feet. And do they have something to say about that?
Yeah. Um, I have to give it time to come. So putting it into words is that how you choose to continue on, how you choose to continue on is part of the contract here on earth. Doesn't matter if you're humans, doesn't matter if you're elements, if you're animals, if you're insects, if you're flowers, if you're trees. How you choose to continue on and change form is part of the contract of here on this earth. So if those animals chose to experience fire,
Mm-hmm.
in that way, that's how they will be experiencing it. What they are saying is that when any physical entity continues on, it's like that. So we see the suffering, who's still alive. We might see a slow death, or something like that. We would think, oh my gosh, they're in so much pain. Oh, that's how they died. That's what's hurting me, because it's the way that they died and it was a slow death, or whatever we think we're thinking. For them, that is not their experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's a completely different experience for us. So we, on the other side, looking on, can choose to take that energy on if we want to experience that. That's a choice thing. Or we can choose to say, you know what, that's what they chose, that's their experience, and some would have continued on, some would have survived and going through their hurt and their pain. That's going to end up being love and positiveness, because that's the cycle, because they're still here for a reason. And every single essence of this energy in this earthly realm has a purpose. So even those koala have a purpose. And I know, this is me speaking now, is that when I heard about the Australia incident, and I done my own meditation and asked for the balance that needed to be. So if water needs to come, bring that balance in. But what I did get was everyone, all the love for the animals.
You
And
hit
I
the
was
nail
like,
on the head.
this is why these animals chose to experience this, to bring back this section of the love.
Boom.
And
That's
when I
it.
saw that,
That's exactly what my
there was
guide
nothing
said
more
to
I
me.
could say.
Exactly. That's exactly what my guide said to me when I asked. They said, well, think about it. As humans that look on the news and you see atrocities every day and millions of humans get wiped out in tsunamis, and you kind of go, oh, that's terrible, and you get on with your life. There's no opening. There's no heart opening. There's no compassion. You're so used to being bombarded with atrocity and atrocity and atrocity in your Hollywood movies, on your news, and on a half-hourly basis. But when you see animals like koalas who look like furry babies, right? When you see them suffering, there was this mass heart opening across the world.
It was amazing, and
Mass
it still is.
compassion. And it just makes me cry thinking about it. You can't look at a koala and not go, oh, like it's got to be a hard person that can look at a koala and not have their heart open. Because even just seeing them just like come off the trees and cling to the rescuers and being fed water, and it just makes me cry.
No, it was just amazing.
And so it's like really created this compassion across the world and a heart opening. And so, as you say, everything happens for a reason. Those beings, those souls chose that experience specifically for that.
And when you see that straight away, well, for me, it makes sense. And straight away, I can give that love, and straight away, I want to be part of that love,
and
part of
the
that
caring.
change.
And what happened, Zoe, is I was down the coast with a friend, and I was ringing up all the wires and wildlife rescue and koala sanctuaries and stuff, and asking how we can help. And they were all saying, well, we thank you, but we're inundated with people wanting to help. And so this action that we've spoken about, like walk your talk. So it's all very well to sit back and watch the television and see the koalas and go, oh, isn't that sad? And I'm sorry. But actually people are getting up off the couch and getting out there and knitting and, helping and doing, and they're putting their compassion into action. And so I'm a bit of a mess at the moment.
No, it's nice. And it's nice tears, it's compassion tears, and it's nice to be able to express that and share that as well, because what we're saying right here, forget that this is an interview, we're sharing something right now that it's really of pure love, and we don't even know each other. And
darling, I never interview anybody. I always have conversations, loving conversations. That's what my show's about. It's not about interviewing people. Yeah, so that was really the message I got as well. So it's so lovely to hear that from the beings. It's so nice to be on that same page, like
Yeah.
it's with the younger generation here in Sydney that are real activists, they don't understand why they see these animals suffer, but at the same time, the compassion that's been
Yeah.
a bit like when Lady Di died, all those years ago. And I
Yeah.
saw the world crying. I sort of thought, why is everyone crying? And it was again this sort of mass heart opening, this mass compassion.
Yeah.
One woman did that. It was
Yeah.
incredible. It was incredible. So the little
Yeah.
koalas, they're doing their job as well.
Exactly.
And Zoe,
Exactly.
when you look at them, people bandaging them, they actually
I
don't
know.
look like they're in pain. Like they just sort of sit there passively and have their
Yeah.
paws bandaged, and they just
Yeah.
look happy, actually. They don't they're not crying, going, ow, it hurts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they do
They're getting
cry.
on with it.
Yeah, they're getting on with it because
Yeah.
I've seen koalas
Yeah.
have fights and cry and stuff. Like there was a video on YouTube of a koala being kicked out of a tree by another koala, and he was crying at the bottom of the tree.
Oh,
So they do cry,
yeah.
but they weren't crying as they were being rescued. It was really interesting. Anyway, so much to talk about. What else did the beings share with you? I love your beings. I love them. Part of my mob, part of the stream of
Yeah.
consciousness. I'm tapped into
Yeah.
same information.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
else did they say? What was the thing that they said to you that most profoundly changed the way you looked at life? Because you'd already done, as you said,
That's a good question.
a lot of spiritual work before they showed up. But what was that like when and you go, oh, that real aha moment?
Yeah. I think for me is when they started to really share about the elements and to really, for me, to really understand about it's not just about humans, which I knew
Yeah.
that anyway. But for them to really break it down that was a tearjerker for me. That was an understanding that I wanted to put into practice, which I did and I do, but it was just having a chat with an energy, whatever you want to call it, or beings where there's just no judgment. There's no nothing. There's no what I'm saying is right or what we're saying is right or anything like that. It was just nice and pure. And I loved that. And for me, we don't really get that in a lot of humans where it's just, totally pure because we have our conscious mind and because we have the ego and we have to always balance that out, So to have them speak about fossils and speak about the elements and animals and the when you connect with animals. And another thing they connected with as well is about people that are disabled and non-verbal. If you choose to connect with those spirited, highly creative spirited beings, and you can connect with them without needing to speak with words, and you choose to connect with them, that's when you're activating the other parts of your mind.
Yeah, like
And
it's
they said
telepathic.
use
Mm, mm.
yeah, use those other beings and energies to use the other acts. So use animals. You've got animals at home, use them to connect with the other side of your mindset to make it grow, to make it balance back out. And what it would do, it would evolve you to other levels. So
Beautiful.
things like that they were saying to me that made me think, okay, I
Yeah.
love that.
If we're
And
going to move into a more telepathic society, we can practice on
yeah,
our animals. Yeah. And
yeah,
I've said this on the show before, but I'm going to say it again. There was a woman that came to me for a session and she brought her 9-year-old son with her who did not speak.
mm,
And she had been trying to make this boy speak for 7 years. When he was about 2 and he wasn't speaking, a bit like when you said you didn't want to speak, she started taking him to therapists, right?
Yeah.
And so she had been to all manner of therapists and spent a lot of money on trying to fix her child. Well, a friend sent her to me, and I said, you don't need to fix your child. Your child is a highly evolved being who's here to
Yeah.
teach humanity about telepathy. And
Yes.
he's never going to speak. And she said, she started saying, yeah, it's funny when he's at the park, at the swings, other kids that don't know him come up and they just hug him and they don't want to let go of him. I go, yep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's a few years older now, and he does say the odd word, but he does not communicate verbally. But
Yeah.
and so he, like the animals, he is here to teach us how to
Yes.
communicate telepathically. But therapists don't know that. They're trying their darndest
No.
to make him speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like you have to do that in this lifetime.
Hmm.
When we know that there's other aspects of learning, there's people that come into this world and they're blind. There's people that come into this world and they're deaf, and they're using their other senses
Exactly.
to experience this lifetime. And it doesn't mean something's wrong with them,
Yeah.
which some humans believe and think, oh, that means something's wrong. That means you're not normal. That what is normal. So they were saying a lot of that as well, and it just really resonated with me, and it made me grow in a way that was even different from what I've known for many years. So I've grown up with my spiritual growth, I've done my healing and stuff like that. I've followed spiritual teachers or authors that's had their experiences, like Donald Walsh,
Neil Donald
Conversation with
Walsh. Yeah.
God.
Hmm.
He was my first thing that I was like, okay, I get you, because I feel like I'm speaking to someone and something from very young. So I get you. So I connected with that.
Yeah,
And
me too.
the, the power of now, and
Mm-hmm.
the book, The Secret, and the video, and those sort of things always connected to me. I understood it. I was in that vibration with them. When I got to understand or connect with them, I was like, yes, I get you. There was no questioning of, are they right, are they not? I just
Mm-hmm.
felt like, okay, I
At
feel
home.
like I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but with the beings coming now and coming from a different angle of, okay, yeah, you've done all this, and yeah, you've been it, you've grown it, you've become it, and you are it. But if you want to, you can grow even more.
Oh,
And this is
yeah.
what we're showing you and guiding you guys, humans, to, if you really want to open that mindset. They like to say that humans say this and they say that, and they say they know this and they know that, and they do their little chuckle and say, you guys do know a lot, but there's so much more.
Yeah.
There is so much more. And because we have that aspects of fear, there's a lot of fear that stops us, because they said straight, if you guys are still choosing to be scared of death,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a blockage right there,
Yeah.
because birth is death. You are death. Death is now. Death is here.
Birth
You
is death.
know, with birth is death. So if you're saying you're afraid of that, you're blocking. And there's a lot of humans. There's a lot of humans that's still afraid of that word death.
Mm-hmm.
So the word, not even experiencing, that's another energy right there. Just the word of it,
Well,
you know.
there is this exponential growth in the afterlife exploration, near death. The IANS group has been, the International Association for Near Death Studies has been across the world, specifically in the US, but it's across the world, and it's sort of expanding here in Australia. And so the conversation around death and afterlife conversations is really expanding. Even I noticed on the show, when I put up a near death experience, it will get 3 or 4 times more views or listens than other conversations. So there is this seeking of
Yes,
understanding this death experience that has been so
yes,
feared. So that's really promising. What do
yeah.
they say about our human DNA and the evolution of our DNA?
Oh, yeah, I did we did speak about our DNA, and it's weird because I went before they came. I done my DNA genes before they came and visited me, and I done my DNA genes because I wanted to experience in healing my DNA. And
When you say
for
did your
me,
DNA, your ancestry, did you have your ancestry? Did you?
yeah, so I
Yeah.
done my DNA genes to see which part of the makeup I was. So I knew that my dad was mixed and my mum is African Caribbean. So I knew that anyway. But for me to get to the next level of healing, I wanted to get to break it down a little bit more. So I done that, and that was all good, and I was able to say, okay, you know, I can heal that part of my DNA, the Scottish part and the this part and then that part, which before I probably wouldn't have done that. So it opened me up in a different way. So when the beings came now, I asked about our DNA, our genes, and it was quite simple what they said, which it makes sense. And they said, well, because we are all one, there's no one set gene for this person or that person. So even though you've done your genes in this lifetime, the physical side of your genes, and yes, you'd have the Scottish part, you'd have the Asian, you've got the Tibetan, you've got the African, you've got all that side within you. Take that all away, because remember, we're talking about labels now. If you take that all away, we are just pure energy. We're all just pure energy. You've chosen within that pure energy to put the pigments you put together to make something up to experience. So we come into this earthly realm just to experience our energy form in different forms. It's like different storytellings, and you're going into different chapters to experience the different chapters. It's the same with us humans and everything else, you know. So because we are one energy, we can tap in to all other different energy forms at different times if we choose to. So I said, okay, what do you mean by that? And this is where I got the next door thing, because they said we are all one. So even though you know, when they say, oh, heaven is up here and earth or something's down there, there's no up or down or anything like that. It's just the oneness of energy. Our concept separates what we think is a separation, but there's no separation. So once you get to the concept of knowing there's no separation, and you come to believe that, they're talking to us as humans, and we get to live that, then again we grow some more. So the more that our mindset changes, the more we see different. And then the more that we see different, the more that we get to experience something different. So for instance, they brought me, what they done a lot of the time as well, they bring me back, they might bring me back to childhood for me to experience something. And they would say, remember, and they would bring me back to 6-year-old, or remember when you was 11, or remember when you was having seizures, and then when you was come out of a seizure, how you would feel. So every time I had a seizure and I opened up my eyes, I would actually feel like I went zoom, back down to earth, literally like a zoom. And then I would be, oh, okay. And I have to balance myself back, because I feel like I've just been dropped down from space, like literally, you know, and I need to be able to figure myself back into this physical earthly realm again. And it's not just me that experiences that, who has seizures. If you speak to other people that are epileptic or have experienced being epileptic, most of them would say that they will wake up and they feel like, okay, I'm back here, or
Got
where
to
have I been?
recalibrate back
Just,
to this frequency. Yeah.
yeah. And what they were saying is that there's no up, high, low, far away, you know, where we would say thousands of years. There's no thousands of years. It's just the now. It just is, you know. So everything is next door. Everything is just here. It's not far away. So your concepts of how we see things determines what we're going to experience, and we know that.
Absolutely. Look, as you're talking, I'm thinking of telekinesis. Do you know what telekinesis is? So the ability to move something with your mind. You put a pen on a
Yes.
table and then you spin it with your mind and the pen starts to spin.
Yeah.
So when you speak to people who teach telekinesis, they say, well, when you know that you're one with the pencil, then the pencil is one with you.
Yes.
Then you can, and just like you're one with your hand and you can move your hand, right?
Yes.
So if you understand the oneness of you and the pencil, then you can move the pencil because you're moving your hand with your mind, even though you feel like you're connected to your hands, but you can move the pencil with your mind too. And so that, as you speak about when you understand the oneness with all things, I think that we're just starting, I don't know, most humans don't have a clue, but we're just starting in the consciousness community, spiritual community, to get a grip of that, and telepathy and astral projection and mind projection, and we're just starting to play with it all. And there's so much more expansion. But this oneness with all thing, there is no millions of years ago. I know, like you can connect to the dinosaurs just by thinking about it, and there you are back, millions of years ago. It wasn't, you don't need to time travel because it's, I had an experience when I was in my 30s of astral projecting and then coming back to my body. And when I came back to my body, it was at night. So it was like a dream. I was in and outside my body simultaneously. I could see through all the walls, like everything was translucent and transparent, and I could understand the matrix of the universe as this energy, because I was perceiving it as energy as opposed to solid. And my guides, I was asking them, like, what the hell happened? Can you explain more? And they said, well, you think you travel, but you don't, there's nowhere to go. It's just focus. You're either focused here in this dimension or you're focused in another dimension. You don't actually have to leave your body and then travel and then be there, because it's just like a camera lens. If you're looking at something, you'll see it, but if you shift the lens, you'll see something different. And they said shifting dimensions is the same. You can be in this dimension or you can be in another. It's just where you put your focus. And they said to have this physical experience, you're predominantly focused in this dimension, therefore you experience this dimension as your life. And then as you expand your psychic awareness, you start to connect with other dimensions which are all around you. And that's how you can see ghosts and ETs and, and angels. And and that's what Annette was talking about. There's no such thing as, what was she saying, shape, and there's no such thing as up, and there's no such thing as down, and talking about the flat earth as opposed to the round earth. There's no shape to everything. It gets confusing because we experience this dimension as spatial, the time space reality. So we're experiencing time and space. But when you move outside of time and space, then you just see it all as energy, an organization of energy and information.
What they are saying, they've just come in again, and what they're saying, and it makes so much sense to what we're speaking about, is that whatever we want to experience is right. So if we want to say the world, the earth is round, and we have that perception that the world is round, then that's right. There's no, just because there is the oneness of the everything, and there is no light or day or dark or whatever you want to call it, it does not mean that what perception we see or we feel in this lifetime is not right as well. So it's and this is why they're saying try not to take everything on, because it can get you like, oh my gosh, everything's too much, and
it can get
everything's all up. And it can get confusing.
But look at it like you and I. So you're in the UK and I'm in Australia, and at the moment you're experiencing darkness. You look outside and you see the night sky, right? And as I look out my window, I see a blue sky. So I could say, it's a blue sky, and you could look out and you say it's a black sky, and who's
Yeah,
right? Like, we're both right because we're
exactly.
experiencing it
Yes,
from a different perspective. I mean, the sun is
yes,
where the sun is, and the earth is where the earth is, and yeah, so we're both right. Yeah,
yes,
yeah. As Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you get to be right. There
yes,
is nothing outside of what
exactly.
you believe is so. Yeah.
No,
It's the
yeah,
kind of 101 principle of being a deliberate creator, that you get to be right, whether you're sad or whether you're happy, you just get to be right in your experience
yeah,
if that's what you're choosing.
yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about it. And I think that's why with the beings, they were really hot on, and they are hot on try not to separate and bring back the oneness, because there's no right or there's no wrong. It's just people's perception, and that's okay.
Hmm.
That's beautiful. That's love,
Hmm.
you know. And I love the fact that we don't have to think that our way is the right way,
Hmm.
you know, and we can just love and be okay when somebody else says, I 100% don't believe what you're saying.
Hmm.
I do not believe that you saw beings, and I do not believe your past of you having epilepsy and stuff. You look fine now. You're
Hmm.
not having it now. So why you still take, whatever the case may be, I love that person still. I love their perception of what they're saying, because it's their story. It's what they're seeing.
Hmm.
That has nothing to do with me whatsoever. That has nothing to do with my experience, if they believe or not believe or anything like that. But I can still love that, and I can still love them. So it's taken away that judgment of, no, but I did have epilepsy and I did see the beings, and no, and trying to, you know, change that energy for people to believe, when
Hmm.
everyone has their own concept and everyone's right, and and it is what it is.
Hmm.
And wherever someone's saying they're right, there's going to be somebody else saying they're wrong, and whoever's saying they're wrong, there's going to be somebody saying right. And bringing back that oneness is about, it's okay. It's okay for you to see it that way, and it's okay for that one to see it that way, and it's okay for that one to see it that way, because at the end of the day, we're all love, we're all energy, and we're all here to experience these concepts of difference within the oneness,
Mm.
you know.
Oh, darling one, you are indeed a sage. Tell you, oh, I want to cry again. It's been just so beautiful. Oh, it's been so beautiful to speak with you. What time is it? We've been
And
yakking.
you,
We've been yakking
I
for
know,
nearly
it's
2 hours.
hours, yeah.
Um,
But it's been amazing, and thank you for this opportunity, because as I say to you, I just be, I just do, and I just be. So I do my thing, and you know, and it's not many. I think this might be the first time ever I'm speaking truthfully about the being of this energy here. I've done interviews for books and all my other stuff, and my company and my SEN work, and you know, and stuff like that. But to talk about just the energy of my journey and the just being, and to be free to be able to express that, is nice for me, you
mm,
know.
mm.
And it's nice. So I thank you for our connection and taking this time to share our love, you know,
Yeah.
for
Oh,
not just mankind, but for the whole of this
the universe,
entire
the
universe that
multiverse.
we've chosen.
Mm,
Yeah, we've chosen to be here for this time. We've
stand for
chosen
love.
to experience this experience, and it's about continuing to have fun and to enjoy it, you know, until it changes form.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that we can see it. Enjoy it and have fun until it changes form.
Now, do you do any personal sessions? Like, do you do one-on-one sessions with people
Yes. So
I-
how
in this capacity? Like, if somebody wants to connect with your wisdom, connect to the beings, and ask questions about their reality, or I suppose.
Yeah, the beings we were doing little group
Okay.
sessions when the beings were there in 2017. There's so much to share, because we haven't even shared
the
when the
surface.
beings went, because when the beings went, I went and done a past life regression.
Okay.
So I went and done a past life regression, and I went to the place. I went to my inner home.
Uh-huh.
I went to the oneness of the beings and stuff. And it was nice because it wasn't done when they were here. It was when they left. And then I was able to experience, and you know what it's like when your soul is touched you in a way where you just have to cry and
Yeah.
cry and cry
Yeah.
and cry and cry and cry.
Yeah.
And I just felt like this is home.
Yeah.
And I cried and cried and cried and cried. And by connecting to the beings in another way, in that home form of that energy, they shared with me some sounds and some letters. So I started to write not in the way
Like language of
humans
light.
write. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it quickly. I did bring it down just in case it came up. But they shared with me like, I don't know if you can see, but it's like shapes
Oh yeah.
of words.
Beautiful.
And then I started writing in because they confirmed that this ain't my language. So that's why I have the so-called dyslexia,
Dyslexia.
because I don't talk. I don't, from where I'm coming from, I communicate in different ways. So,
Darling one, you've been
and
yakking for
I'm
nearly
really not a human.
you've been yakking for nearly 2 hours and you've been doing really well.
Yeah, but so just quickly, they gave me that, and I started doing writing with it and communicating in a different way. So different energy comes to me
Mhm.
when I use these shapes as words, which is really interesting. And then I started to, when I went and had my what's it called, my afterlife experience with this lady. She was beautiful, she was lovely, a lovely energy. And I got into the chair, she got me into a lovely state, and straight away I was like, I'm not meant to be talking. I said, I need a pen and paper. And I just drew, and with my eyes closed, I was in a different space,
Mhm.
and I just drew, I just drew, I just drew. And then I might say bits, and then I would draw again and draw again. And then when I woke up, I was able to read what I drew, the shapes and
Wow.
everything.
Mhm.
And I would say to her, okay, this is where I went, this is what happened, blah, 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 and whatever. And it continued from there. And I left there, and she was like, wow, that was amazing. And I've never had anyone that you led it, basically. And she
Yeah.
said, I just was there guiding. But I thanked her so much because she was the portal that I needed to get to the next stage
Mhm.
with the beings in a different way,
Mhm.
and so answering that question, what I do now, I do energy healing anyway. I've been doing that for years. It started with doing Reiki,
Mhm.
and I was a Reiki master and a Reiki practitioner, and I used to do Reiki. And then when I was doing my meditation, it would always say to me that you need to be using your own symbols, and you need to be using I started to use the elements. So I would use the sun to do my energy. And it's weird because everything that I've done in life, it's been through other people telling me, like the stage, someone giving me the name.
Mhm.
When I used to do the healing, it would be them that would say, oh my gosh, I felt like this happened. And there's been people that's had cancer, and then their cancer went, and they would say, oh my gosh, I went back to the doctors, my cancer's gone since you've touched me. It's never me telling them I can do this, or I can heal you, or I can heal. It was always them. So then I was like, okay, what's going on with these hands then? And what is going on here? Because they're saying this, and I would always say to them, it's a vessel, this ain't me, because I just go into a zone, and it's energy that comes in to support you or to whatever. But I was finding that these people were saying this, and it's been like that all through my life. It's never me going to people and saying, I can do this and I can do that. It's always they telling me this is what they've experienced from me
Beautiful.
doing something, and then that's how it's grown, you know. So now that I've got these symbols, I've put them into a meditation state, and I work with them through just being me now. So I might get people that will come, and I support people that has conditions. I support people that maybe have HIV, and they're working with their white cells, and I work with them with their white cells to love them, their white cells. So being fearful of, oh my gosh, this might happen and that might happen. Let's love, let's change it form. Let's change that white cell. Let's love it. And it's the same with cancer and stuff. It's cells inside of us that it needs to change the energy. It needs to shift. If you keep on saying, I hate you, or why has this happened to me? And, oh, you're trying to kill me and I'm going to die now. And I don't like this cancer, and this cancer's this, or this HIV is this. It's going to stay there and it's going to fester. And that is what's going to grow. We know how powerful our thoughts are and our mindset is. It's the same thing with a condition.
Absolutely.
So I do a lot of work. I do a lot of work with that, but that work to me is special. So I don't charge or anything like that. It's not about money. It's not about anything. The universe blesses me in so many different ways. So that part of my energy, I do not charge at all. I see it as a gift, and it's something that is not from me. It's from my, my home,
Your mom.
and yeah, and I'm aware of it. Yeah.
So are you still doing your groups? You still doing group sessions, like physical group sessions?
No, with Annette, we was doing the group sessions with the beings, and the beings was okay with that in 2017. But for me, it was getting to a stage where it was becoming overwhelming. And it was becoming overwhelming because within, I don't even know, seconds, we was getting Facebook things, and Facebook people were emailing with questions for the beings. So because I have to really connect with them, it's not so, it's okay now because I've grown with them now, but at the time it was still new. So I have to really concentrate when I'm hearing them, because I hear them through vibration and sound. So bringing that into words takes time. So a lot of people was coming with questions, and it was becoming too much for me, and I had to step back because I still have a life. I'm still in this physical form, and it was something where I said, okay, I need to step back from this, because it got to a stage where it wasn't becoming natural. Now, I don't like things when it doesn't become natural, because it was becoming like a people thing, and it was becoming, okay, it's good that you're sharing, but the energy just wasn't becoming as pure as I would have liked it to be. And I could have stayed in that energy, and it would have ended up probably coming big, and people would have been saying this, but it would have ended up being too physical. That's just me personally. So I stepped back, and this isn't my ego speaking here. So half of it was my ego as well. And I did not want my ego to start taking precedence on this or on my life in that way.
I totally get that. When you start putting yourself out there as some sort of sage, and then people come to you with questions, the ego can run amok. Any form of recognition, whether you're an actress or any sort of form of fame or recognition, the ego can get a hold of it and run amok. And I've seen that happen with many people, not just, actresses or actors or famous people. I've seen that happen with spiritual guru. I've seen that happen with a lot of spiritual people who come with an open, honest, authentic heart wanting to share, and then they get this recognition, and their ego starts to expand, and they start to have their own self-importance, and it's a tricky game. It's a really tricky game. But I get it. I absolutely get it. Still,
and they got it as well.
I'd still like to see you do groups, as long as you can keep a rein on your ego, and not feel overwhelmed, and not feel used, and not feel more important than, just stay in the moment,
Yeah.
stay present and stay
Yeah.
joyful. I think
Yeah.
that the groups would still be really beneficial, physical
Well, I
groups.
think
Yeah.
I think for now, where I'm at now, because I've chosen to take on the sage of energy,
Mm-mm.
and it's who I am. So I'm not something. I'm not trying to be anything but who I am. It just so happens that word fitted my energy, if you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So what happened was in 2017 when I started to step back and net experienced it differently when the beings left, and they didn't leave. They just changed form, and they became an energy of quietness, because for my journey, that's what I needed, and they knew that. They could feel it. And one thing that I know in this lifetime is that I am not here for any recognition or anything like that. I just don't choose to experience it in that way. That's just me in this lifetime. So unless it's coming pure, or if I feel like the ego's starting to run away, I need to bring it back, and just give it some time to rest back again. I'm okay to do that.
Mm-mm.
And if that means
you can do your groups online too, like this, on Zoom.
yeah,
I just think that the message is important and vast, and we haven't even scratched the surface. There's so
I
much.
know
Uh,
there's so
and
much more
and being dyslexic, probably putting it into a book is going to take a lot of work, because you probably need to translate it into a voice and record it, and then maybe get it transcribed.
No, it's weird that you should say that, because I love writing.
Well,
I
okay
actually
then.
I
Brilliant.
actually love writing. I part of my freelance work that I do with my business is that I mark a lot of work, because I
Mm,
teach
mm,
teaching assistants,
mm.
and I courses, and I have to actually mark a lot of work. So I mark other
Oh,
people's work is fantastic.
well, maybe you could get
It's
it
just my
down
own.
into book form for people
Yeah,
to read.
maybe. Yeah,
Because, like being dyslexic, I never wanted to put out a book, and my guides told me to. And then as I started putting out books and started reading them, even when I had spoken face to face like this with people, even in their home, and I'd listened to their stories, something about reading their story was even more profound than
yeah.
actually speaking or listening.
See?
There was something in
Yes.
that, and I just thought, wow. And I really had an appreciation of reading that I'd never had before, having
Yeah.
been struggled with reading when I was younger.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to get the information into book form. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think Annette is doing a book on her version of it at the moment, or putting something together as well,
Yeah, great.
and that's the beautiful thing about this world, because her perception and my perception is completely different,
Mm,
and it's nice to hear the different sides
absolutely.
to a story, her perception, my perception of a story of these three beings,
Mm, mm, mm.
of these three beings.
So
So
where can
yeah.
people find out more? I know you've got the Chon Oneness on Facebook, CHON, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, isn't it? It's Chon stands
Yeah.
for, the elements. And if people are not on Facebook, how can they find out more?
To tell you the truth, and I'm going to be honest, if you want to find out more about the three beings, I don't know. Yeah,
All right.
I
Well,
don't know.
let's say we'll have another discussion maybe towards the end of the year, mid-year or something, and we'll discuss more, and maybe you'll get a website up by then or something. Anyway, because
You never know.
it's
You
easy to
never
get a
know.
website up and just put a whole lot of information on a website. But I look, a lot of people are on Facebook, I have to say, but not everybody. And yeah, it's just a matter of getting this info out there in a way that humans
Yeah,
can digest it,
yeah,
either read
yeah,
it or listen to it, or how humans can digest it. They can tap into the beings themselves if they like, and they can download the
yeah,
information. That's
yeah,
totally possible for
yeah,
anyone listening to this.
yeah.
They
What
can
I
do
would
it.
say is, because, like, for instance, you have your mob, we I connected with the three beings. We know it's all oneness and it's all the same. So there is someone out there, you're doing it already, where the information's there. So
Yeah.
to tell you the truth, what I'm going to be sharing is what you're already sharing. So
Well, this
the
is
answer
true.
is, Yeah.
This is true, but
It's just,
I do like the way you're sharing it, and I do like the way that you translate the energy. I think that, you know, even the way that Annette was translating it's confusing, but I think that, you know, confusing the mind kind of breaks us out of our rigid mindsets. When you go into confusion, there's this sort of expansion. You know, like there's like, huh? What does that mean? And then for a
yeah,
moment, you're not sort of locked inside your linear perspective, and there's like a little bit of
yeah.
an expansion. So I do like the way that they sort of do that. The beings,
Mm.
they say, you know, there's no up, there's no down, there's no shape, there's no this. You know, it kind of like what, and then
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
All right,
definitely.
honey, well, we should go. It's getting
Yes,
on.
thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you.
so
Thank you
much.
so much.
It's been such a
Thank you.
joy and a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. And anytime you want me to come on the show, that's probably what I will do. So I'll definitely share the love, maybe only on your show, but I will do that. You know what I mean? So
Come back.
anytime, yeah, anytime you want me, or you want, if the beings are around, we can have a chat and share, and then share
Beautiful.
with others.
Beautiful.
That's the love. Okay, see you later. Take care. Thank you.
Oh, what an absolutely beautiful conversation with Zoe. Oh, a bit of a mess, really. So many tears and laughter and joy, and she is really such a beautiful being. I've asked her to come back on the show in May. We're going to get into some more stuff because, as we've said, just scratch the surface with what the beings were bringing through. And yeah, she said after the show, you know, there's so many different paths we could have gone down, and this is true. 2 hours is not enough to have this conversation. So many things, so many things. And she hasn't got a website up, and she's not got online groups. So I thought we'll have her back on the show and maybe get her up and running, put a website up, and by the end of the year. And I also invited her to come in as a guest teacher at the end of the year in November in our inner sanctum, and we can quiz her and the beings. She can bring the beings through and ask some questions on an online group, you know, in the inner sanctum, our little online tribe. That'd be beautiful. I just thought her energy was so beautiful. She's just so beautiful, so beautiful. Oh, yes, just gorgeous. I was just saying to her after the show when she was talking about when she had the regression session, or the past life session as she called it, and she went back to the oneness and was in like the womb. Was that her near-death experience or her past life session? Anyway, back to that feeling, and she was crying and crying and crying and crying, and just having that feeling of being home. And I totally related the other night when I went to Elijah Ray, who's the most magnificent musician, such a galactic being, a multi-instrumentalist, multi-talented, can sing any genre, can sing any octave. Oh, just sublime. He was doing a sound healing, the most profound sound healing, and I go to a lot of sound healings. I go to a lot of sound healings, and one of the most profound sound healings I've ever experienced. And he started bringing through, he had Palladian energy, he had Syrian energy, Arcturian energy. He started bringing through Syrian energy, so he was doing like whale and dolphin sounds. He's got this drone happening, and he's singing, and then underneath the singing is this, it was like there's one man, but it felt like an orchestra. It was amazing. And when these whale and dolphin sounds came through, which were really subtle, I just burst into tears. I was just crying and crying and crying, and I just related to what Zoe was saying. It wasn't a sadness, it was this feeling of being home. I said to my girlfriend, she said on the way home, "You were crying were you sad?" And I said, no, I wasn't sad. I was just like this memory of home. And I said, "I've always said I look like a beach whale." I'm definitely connected to the whales and the dolphins, all these sea creatures, sedations. I feel so at home in the ocean. I always swim under the water and just like hang under the water, and I feel at home in that matrix of water. I can't breathe under there, and I wonder why. But yeah, so when Elijah Ray was bringing through that energy the other night, I was just bawling like a baby, silently, because I was in a group of people, like trying not to make too much noise. But just such a beautiful, if you get to experience Elijah Ray wherever you are in the world, he is an American and he travels widely. He does a lot of work with festivals in Ubud or in Bali. He's been to, look, he's everywhere. He travels. Look him up, Elijah Ray. Just magnificent. I'm hoping to have him on the show, maybe mid-year, and we'll share his story and his music with you all. Just beautiful. Anyway, thanks again for listening and watching. As I said, Zoe's going to come back. And I've got so many people coming up on the show. Michael Tamora's coming back in, Catherine Madden, Mike, now what's Mike's last name? Lopatriel, anyway, from Paul Selig, David Rippey, lots of people coming up. And Zane Daniels is coming into the Inner Sanctum. Zane, have a look at the show I did with Zane. He is the activator, the awakener. He speaks to crystals. He was he's written a comic book for the awakening of humanity called the something, can't remember. Anyway, it's on the show. But he used to make video games. He was in the video gaming industry. He has an amazing story. And then he had this awakening, and now he's out there as the, consciousness teacher and spreading the love, as we're all doing, and activating and awakening people. And he's been on a bit of a journey since I spoke to him on the show. Actually, he's deepened his knowing and his understanding of the oneness of all, and he's sort of let go of a lot of the trappings of the linear life. Like, he's let go of his house and his job, and I think he's living out of a van and traveling through the States at the moment. Last time I saw him on Facebook, he was in Sedona. So it'd be interesting to catch up with Zane and to hear his wisdom. And if you have some crystals, if you want to join us and you want to activate a crystal, or, he speaks with the elements, just like Zoe was saying. We have to remember that we're one with the elements, the rocks, the air, the wind, the fire, the rain, the water. We can communicate, we can commune. We're one with everything. We're one with our cars, we're one with our brush, we're one with everything. We can commune, it's all conscious. We can commune with everything. Yeah, when we know we're one with everything, we have this unbelievable experience of manifestation. Like the ETs do. You hear of ETs walking through walls. They understand it's all energy and information. And when you're one with the wall, you can move through the atoms of a wall. Isn't that exciting? Even when you're in a physical form. Anyway, the understanding of physics and all of this we're just scratching the surface as a human consciousness. So it's exciting. Exciting to expand this awareness and learning to live it, not just chewing it over but actually living it, like telekinesis, moving things with your mind, communicating telepathically, all that stuff. So beautiful. Thanks again for staying with me if you're still here after 2.5 hours. And remember to buy the book Awakened by Death. Love you all. Bye for now.